Welcome. I'm Priscilla Monte, Senior Vice President for Programs and Communications for the Hampton Roads Chamber. Thank you for joining us for this virtual chamber education. Today's presenter is one of our favorite people. Susan Long-Molnar is an industry-leading consultant, strategist, trainer, and presenter in communications, marketing, and PR. After an 11-year jaunt with corporate communications management for regional corporations, including Centera, Cox Communications, and USAA, she founded Managing Communications in 2002. She's also served in many leadership roles in the region, nationally as the Employee Communications Chair of the Public Relations Society of America. As a dedicated LinkedIn expert, Susan considers micro-targeting and content management as a key to gaining ROI with LinkedIn. In addition to social media training and presentations, she offers a wide range of communications topics, both related to leadership, employee communications, and marketing. Ladies and gentlemen, I present Susan Long-Molnar.
Hello. Thank you for joining us. I'm looking forward to a lot of interaction here, and I want to share with you our agenda that we will try to do within the next hour. I see many familiar names, would love to see faces. So we're going to look at networking differently, and we're going to see what channels for networking are working. As we know, we've been through a lot, and that networking has maybe suffered in some ways and hopefully improved in others. So as we move into the next recovery, and that's why I added that in my thinking. So we move to hybrid, or we move back to the office part-time, whatever we are doing, it's really going to be important to look at these particular aspects of networking. And I'm going to ask you to raise your hand. So if I can't see people, I'd love to see people. We need to ask you to raise your hands. Liana, don't be shy, open your camera. Come on. There's a couple. Well, this one's probably, I guess we're gonna have to shy networkers here. Okay, I'm gonna ask you then to put in the chat. Well, there's Jessica. Thank you, dear. We have a few, but we have a whole lot who aren't. So just go ahead and put in the chat an answer to as if you were raising your hand. You can say, yes, that's me. Do you think you will be returning to work in a traditional format, or already have, after limitations are completely lifted? Do you think you will totally be back in the office? Let's see what that looks like. Okay, we got a no, we got a yes, unfortunately. Yeah, we all have liked this distance, haven't we? Anybody else on that one? I will once I, yeah, I understand. It's lunchtime. All right, here's the next one. If you didn't answer a yes to that, maybe this is you. By the way, Amazon is leaning to full returning to the offices. Raise your hand if you are anticipating a hybrid approach with at least 1 day a week working remotely. Is that any of our people here? Some have not left the office, but they all have returned now. Yes, hybrid. Fingers crossed that maybe there'll be some kind of a hybrid. And do we have anybody who is now going to anticipate remaining remote at least 2 to 3 days a week? Anybody? At least 2 to 3 days. I like yes. And you know, whatever that looks like, we all have our individual fears of not being able to network with the people that we need to. It's not all about us. It's like, how are we going to reach other folks? Thanks for sharing that. So let's look at what has distance caused. So research is telling us that these are some important factors as to what the distance has resulted in. And I don't think any of us, unless we really don't like to talk to people, would disagree with the first one. Having more time is a biggie, as we know. Networking isn't just about the people that we know, but it's being able to connect with new people. There is an increase in servant attitude. If that's a skill that you are needing to work on for your networking, it is definitely time to do that because others are expecting that. More empathy, more balance in discussions. We had to be creative through COVID, and now we're going to have to continue that, even when people settle down to recovery. Amazing how weather and health have impacted how we network. And it's like ingrained in us, right? It's like, oh my gosh, I'm thinking about where I can go today. It's raining. Or I'm thinking about a great day to get out and take a jog. Maybe there's somebody who wants to go with me. Accessibility, that is on our minds from a health standpoint, from an equity standpoint, DEI. We're thinking differently. And some of the things during COVID really brought to light the need of all of us, of populations. Now, think deeper than who you want to network with. Who's their audience? Who are they trying to inspire, service, create new? And then there's people who are thinking more globally. That's the beauty of it. I hope you have met new people from being on Zooms that are more global. Everyone in the world's now reaching out and more eager to connect than ever before. And the pandemic affected people everywhere, so it wasn't just a US thing. And so one opportunity that I see for you, if you haven't thought of it, is you may network with a local company, or you may not have been able to, but now you can, through Zooms and through using your LinkedIn effectively, it's just more of an open door to meet people with a certain company at headquarters, wherever that may be. So I think for those of us who do a lot with education and workforce development, there's a lot of opportunities there as we think of, as the region thinks of marketing to bring more talent into our area. That is really going to be important. All right, next slide, please. Okay, this is where we're going to ask you to be thinking. And I need to tell you, you can put in the chat anytime you want to, any thoughts, and we're capturing that. So afterwards, I'll see that, and I would love to follow up with some of you that maybe didn't hear something in the chat that's important. All right, what changes in the new norm? It's not about walking around a room full of strangers. And if you look at number 3, that bullet, you'll know why. Right now, until everything opens up and we can have this huge number of people, we look at environment differently. And that also means who is attending. So there is more of a selection of who can attend and be in a room. And then if it's hybrid, who's in virtual. So I just went through this and will this afternoon. We, for Star-Based Victory, some of you know that I work in that arena. We have this huge recognition dinner, and we did it in March. You heard March 2020, and it was packed with like 300 people. It was a great event. And of course, we're not doing that until the beginning of 2022, but there's other things we know we can do with a smaller venue. So we actually know that we are going to be narrowing our target and as to who gets to be in those environments. One more reason for you to be alive and credible in every way that you can, because you don't want to be on the outskirts. And I think for those of us who put events together that are hybrid, we really need to spend some time thinking creatively of how to build a better alliance with the people that are on the virtual. Really important, or we're going to lose a lot of opportunities. Authenticity is so important anymore. And not that ROI wasn't always important, but we lost some time. You know, businesses lost some revenue, nonprofits lost some funding. And so we have to understand that our audiences are paying more attention to targeting for ROI. And so you have to do that too. So I'm going to ask Liana to share with us now a question. And I would like for you to put in the chat which one you think has the most impact on you due to changes that we have. Leanna is working on getting that together for us. So while she's doing that, I will share with you that the next thing we're going to talk about, as Priscilla mentioned, is micro-targeting. And you know, where years ago, anybody, it's like, oh, I want business. I just want business, right? And those of you who are in a service industry, you kind of know what I'm talking about. You have a set of skills, you have a set of capabilities, you have a set of staff, talent, and we'll just work with everybody. And that is not how success looks today. So we don't have a lot of time. So we have to be picky about what we do. Liana, can you share?
Yes, so we have an overwhelming number 2. So that number 2 response was how you arrange your schedule. That seems to be the overwhelming response. The other response I've seen is your relationship with your clients and or your team.
Great. Is anybody particularly surprised by that? We'll take a moment to respond to any thoughts from our audience. Just unmute yourself. Anyone? Okay. Yeah, I think the way we schedule our time is a tremendous difference because we haven't been traveling. What that will mean moving forward, because regardless of what we're doing, we have people we're trying to reach who have a different way of doing things. All right, let's look at the next slide.
So I do have a comment here from Julie. Julie, your mic is open if you want to go ahead and talk.
Good.
I didn't mean to comment, but
we want to hear your lovely voice.
What I'm responding to the first question that most people responded to.
Do you mind speaking up just a little bit, Julie?
Yes.
There we go.
So am I responding to the question where everyone answered two, except for me, I think?
You can tell us about your answer if you would like, or any thoughts on.
Yeah. Well, for me, it is more important to be very close to my customers and, my schedule will change because of what my customers are doing. So that's kind of secondary, I thought.
Great, thanks for sharing. Yeah, so that whole thinking of what's important to our customer is now more important than ever before. I've been training people, salespeople for years, and a lot of times they don't think of what the customer needs. And I'm not talking just about products or certain talent, Jessica, I'm talking about what makes their life better, the individual that you're trying to network with. So we have to take into consideration how they work. All right, good. Thank you so much for responding. Let's look at these defining your targets. Can you see that? I know the type is a little smaller, but I hope each of you can. There are a lot of ways of looking at this. And I know some of you have more, you're further along that line to thinking micro than others. But let's just think, industry, whatever it may be, that's on the broad, this certain industry. Like I do a lot with commercial real estate for a number of reasons, mainly right now for one of my clients that I'm doing business development for. But, we have to think through what we offer and what's happening in those industries, and we can't do everything. So if you think that putting a post out there that just is in general for everybody, that's not gonna do a lot for you. Let me give you an example that was kind of cool. Out of COVID, and I mentioned that one client, I had asked on LinkedIn for a Zoom meeting with someone in the building industry. We did that. She heard what services and problem solving that my client does. And she just heard that from me. It wasn't a time to bring that client in, but she just heard from me. And then about even 2 weeks later, she did a post, and it was on security, especially for women. And I see a lot of women on here. For security in buildings, since there's so few people in the buildings, right? And if they work late and they're walking out alone, not every building has security guards. And so there was, this is a real issue to think through. And she was doing this process. And in her post, she said, Susan Long-Molnar, do you think that Security 101 has a solution for individuals going in and out of buildings? Is there something that would be useful? So she pulled me into that conversation. If I hadn't been paying attention to LinkedIn, I might not have even known that for who knows how long. So I wouldn't have looked very credible, right? So then I don't know everything about that particular client. So I went back immediately. Here's what I need to know. What's your solution? And then I was able to take that and put it in a comment on that post and add value. And that got even more responses. So I'm just saying that we need to understand what those, when we have those networking opportunities, it's not a one and done. It's never a one and done. We're building relationships. Location, what's important to you? Is it Virginia or is it just Southeastern Virginia? Look at other targets. Referral sources. Probably most of us don't spend enough time on our referral sources. Excellent time is now. I joined a new group on Zoom because I know they will be good referral sources, the people that are in that group. All right. influencers, always important. And then you see some of those others. So what I want you to do, if you received the worksheet, well, I know you received it because she sent it to everybody. I would like for you to look at that worksheet now. And the first page is just for you. When you leave here, for you to go, oh yeah, this is my buds. These are my go-to people. And they are real close to the center of that diagram. And you can just write their names in there. You probably talk to them a couple times a week. And then the next group out, who do you talk to once in a while? And thank you, Liana. She has put the link to that worksheet in the chat. So then there's the next realm, and that's the people that you maybe used to see at a networking face-to-face, and they have not seen your beautiful face for a while or handsome face. So you need to be able to reach out to them. And if you actually put names in that box, it will help you think through, wow, my network is pretty large. So what can I do for these people so that I'm continuing to build a relationship? I want you to look at the second page of the worksheet, and I'm going to let you have just a couple minutes. You can go back later and fill in more, but just go through that and jot down a couple of those micro targets for yourselves. And also, what do they want to know? What's important to them? What is important to them that you offer? Oh, some good stuff in the chat. I hope every one of you make a new connection today on this Zoom. That would be great. Thank you, Brenda Wise. All right, did you get something down there? Now, some of you already know this, right? Okay, what are we going to do with this? I want you to open your LinkedIn. If you don't have that open, I want you to open LinkedIn. If there's anyone who doesn't regularly go in LinkedIn, you can still think of somebody, and you can just linkedin.com and you should be able to get to them anyway. But I want you to think of somebody you've been thinking for the last 10 minutes of your targets, people you need to network with. It might be somebody you've already scheduled a meeting with. That's okay. Go look at their profile. Think of a person and go look at their profile right now on LinkedIn. And we can go to the next slide. So here we are. You want to do your research. You know that. I know I'm not talking to somebody who doesn't network frequently. But anyway, you can find a lot about a person in their about, not always, but usually there's something about their experience, something about their interests sometimes. And definitely most people put a list of their services or their competencies somewhere in there. You can look at where they went to college, if they did, what university. Some people will even put in their volunteer work. They may also do posting, which is always a good sign of what's important to them. If you look at their posts and their likes, can you tell from this how long they have worked in a particular industry? So I'm not saying a particular company necessarily, but a particular industry. I would like for you to respond, share with us. Anyone that you see that, yeah, this is happening for me. I'm finding a couple of important descriptions that I can relate to. Now on this screen, you see where I took this guy, William Watt Shepherd. I don't even remember why I picked him. But anyway, I was not connected with him, but I wanted to get connected. So the woman with 6,500 connections that I have, and that again is another seminar as to how to use that. But I will tell you that connecting with people that you don't even know is possible, and it's actually okay. But notice how I wrote this to make the connection. I saw you on your LinkedIn profile and that you've been active in the Richmond AVHC industry for quite a while. I'm a project manager for RIMCO and would like to connect. I would like your perspective on the new OSHA regulations, which is true. They have changed. So I would like to connect. Now, some people will tell you only do one thing at a time networking. I think it depends on you and how comfortable you are and what you know about the other person. But if you're comfortable enough, just go ahead then and say, could we also plan a 20-minute call? You've told them what you want to talk about. But if not, that part you could wait, see if he connects, and then ask him. In the message section of LinkedIn, I will tell you a quick story, how effective that can be. So from my LinkedIn observations of who I had recently connected with, I saw someone who is also very interested in education, very involved in education, has a business in education. And I thought, I really need to try to meet with her. So I sent her a text. I told her my connections with education. And not a text, I sent a message. And I said, I would really love to jump on Zoom for about a half an hour. Can we do that? She said, yes. We had a Zoom meeting. It wasn't even about her business because she didn't need help with that business. But guess what I found out? She was starting another business with other people. So she listened to me and we had discussions and we talked about strategy. And I hit a couple of connections that were just right for her. She said, I would like to see if you can help us with another initiative. And it involved a couple of partners, a doctor, EVMS. There's about 4 people involved in this. And so can I set up a Zoom meeting? I'll get back to you when we have more of a business plan. So in the interim, I sent her a couple of emails, not pestering her, but just a couple of emails. And this is all within a 2-week period. And then I sent her an article I read, which related to that new business. I got an email right back and said, we've had a discussion and we want to do a Zoom meeting with our partners and discuss you getting this off the ground. They are now a client. It's exciting work for me. It's exciting for them because they did not have the time to get it done. Anyway, enough of that, but that shows you, and whether it's LinkedIn or whether it's face-to-face, or it's whether you capturing the people on the Zoom like you should be doing right now and connecting with each other. Follow-up is everything. So now you get to go into a breakout room. It's going to be 3 or 4 people in the breakout room. If you see me in there, or you see Priscilla, or you see Ann, we're not talking. You guys are talking. You're talking with each other. And I expect you to stick to the point. Remember, for those of you who don't know, I was a high school English teacher. It never goes away. It's been years. So you do what I ask you to do, you know? Anyway, so I want you to get in that breakout room, and I want you to talk to each other about the kind of things that you just did with LinkedIn. College, sports, hate going back to the office, a particular talent need, a particular service that's new for you to briefly, hear me, briefly share. You have 5 minutes. And when you come out of that, at least one person from each one needs to come back and tell the whole group what some of those connections were. You are networking. Here we go. It looks like we are back. That went fast, but it was interesting. Do we have somebody from, and yet remember you have to mute yourself to talk. Somebody from Priscilla's group that made some connections.
That will be room 2.
Brenda, because she got cut off in our group.
Aw. So Brenda,
Brenda, do you want to speak on behalf of our group?
Well, sure. Let's see.
the question is connections that could have led next to a more intense discussion or could lead to follow-up.
So what I always do when I'm on the Zoom calls, and I'll just tell you what my experience is. When I'm on Zoom calls like this, I make notes of everybody's name that's on there. And for the people that I break out into my rooms with, you don't have enough time to really talk to people and find out about them. So I will connect with them on Facebook and LinkedIn to provide further discussion.
Okay.
Susan, one thing that was interesting to note in our group, there were 5 of us and 4 of us are not from here. Only 1 person in our group is from this market.
What an opportunity.
Yes,
What an opportunity. Those 4 of you need to stay connected, share what you have learned from living elsewhere, because this region needs to know all that, needs to have all that wisdom. And you may be able to help each other some way from being from different places. Great. Okay, Anne.
Yeah, Eric or Brian, did you want to share some thoughts? Eric, I know you had a good connection with Megan from the Hampton Roads Workforce Council.
Sure, yeah, I'm happy to share. So, hey everyone. So I talked briefly in our group about a recent experience that I had where I kind of by the book, Susan, as to what you were describing, it worked out nicely. So I noticed someone in a publication, the daily email correspondence publication that comes out, and she and I have similar backgrounds. And so I reached out to her on LinkedIn and said, congrats on the nice article, the nice write-up on you. We share similar backgrounds. Here on the peninsula, I support college relations initiatives for our local HR chapter, and I work in talent development by day and night. So, nice kind of correlation between our backgrounds and interests, and invited her to connect and possibly explore, collaboration opportunities. And as a result, it worked out nicely. And she and I actually have a call scheduled after this one today. So, yeah.
That's wonderful. Anything in this little group in 5 minutes that you connected with someone?
Well, sure. We had a pretty small group. It was just Brian and I and Anne. But what I learned from Brian and kind of also from you, Susan, was it doesn't always pay off to be so direct in our messaging. We can't look at everyone as if they're a potential client. We, like to your point, we may look at them as a potential referral. So to not be so direct all the time could pay off in the long run.
Good. If you learned that's a good thing. All right. In our group, I made sure that we let our 2 non-chamber, and not me talk, and we wish we'd had more time. But let's see, Mike or Sylvia, would you like to share something? Mike or Sylvia, which one do you want me to call on?
Sylvia, I think you're still muted.
That's me again. I can't get that mute right, lady. So I just kind of wanted to share the fact that Mike is in HR and I am in the convention service business. And it could be an opportunity where he might send some folks our way. So, he is in the process of hiring people. So it might be a great opportunity for us to stay connected. And, maybe he can send us some good help for the team. So.
Mike, would you like to share?
Yeah, I apologize. I had to jump off to jump on another phone call. I probably should
Aw.
have done that, but I had to. I had
Yeah.
to grab that call, and so I've missed the last 5 minutes.
So Mike is new, really kind of new to the area, and he was in a position in HR, and it was like we all do sometimes. It was a good client, and that was his client. And now he's moving on, and he doesn't know enough people to move on. So I have a feeling that anybody in the like Chesapeake Conference Center world has lots of contacts. And the reason I brought up about staffing, and I didn't know you had jumped off, Mike, is I thought that might be a connection, because we had talked about how the tip catering type staff is a real problem. And so I was hoping that Mike could give some advice. We didn't get that before. But that may happen after this, right?
Yeah, I really do apologize. That was.
It's okay. It happens. It happens.
Hey,
Good
Susan,
job.
there's actually one more group, so.
Oh, okay.
They got it off.
Sorry about that.
Someone from Danielle, Jessica, Laurie, S. Carter, whoever would like to speak for that group, go ahead. Don't make me call on you.
I'll go ahead and speak for the group. It was me, Danielle, and Lori, and I think from our backgrounds and how we utilize LinkedIn, we kind of realized we use it in different ways, and it can be beneficial for all of us in different ways. I know, like, the clientele that Lori was looking for and what Danielle is looking for, we don't necessarily match up, but I know for me, LinkedIn is a really big tool, and I've noticed more so since the pandemic, I've started reaching out to hiring supervisors, managers through LinkedIn. I'm getting more feedback, more willingness to set up meetings. So it's definitely a tool that I like to utilize.
Excellent. Anybody else from that group real quick? Speak up. Okay. Thank you. Let's go to the next slide. We're going to dig into what to do besides LinkedIn. Put that aside now. All right, what to do. Video calling. If you know somebody well and you just need to reconnect and you have one or two questions or one or two ideas, it's great with those kind of people to say, hey, can you jump on FaceTime today or tomorrow for 10 minutes? I need your advice. I need your thought. Yeah, I see some heads nodding. So I think some people are doing that. Zoom, I'm going to talk about in a minute in more detail. Client calls. Oh my gosh. I don't know about you, but I hate the phone. I absolutely hate networking by phone, but I will do it. And I had to do it. And I started with my clients. And I got one that we just had the best conversation. We talked about everything imaginable. And I forgot to ask, what am I talking about? If you have a client who knows you well and trusts you and believes in what you're offering them, it is okay to also say, you know, and I used one example somewhere in here, you know, and this is true. I lost a client during COVID. Now I'm a little business, but if I lose one client when you're an agency, it can be pretty big. But I have so much experience in that area that, and I know that that particular client has all kinds of different industries that they serve. I should have asked right then, hey, Chris, you know, I did lose this one client. He was an engineering firm. Do you have any clients that you think might be good for me to talk to? And would you make that introduction? We forget to ask. Outdoor and entertainment. Great opportunities. Whether it's COVID or no COVID, whether everybody's back to work. Remember, I said people are thinking more about weather. They still are. So if you know somebody jogs, and how do you know that? You may not even know them that well, but you could say, hey, can we get together? I understand you live, like, I found two people through Chamber that I've known forever that are leaders. I mean, the VP of SunTrust was one of them. They live in my neighborhood. I didn't even know it. So you got to make those personal, be authentic connections. I don't even know if anybody's going to wear a suit again. Anyway. All right, participate in social media, and we're going to talk about that. Next slide. Zoom on. This is really important. I don't think it's going away. I love not having to get dressed every day and travel here and travel there. I like a little of it, but I don't want a lot of it. So the first one is really important, and don't take this wrong, but remember the English teacher in me. Attend fully and focused. There is nothing more upsetting. You got to think how you're making other people feel. If you always put that fake visual up and take that camera off of you, it says something about you. I don't know that that's what you want it to say. So being fully focused. And I know we try to do this juggling act. Just get over that. You know, I'll pay for something sometimes to go to a meeting. And when I think about it, I think, gee, I need that information, but I need to be on this group because these are my new buds I'm liking this. I'll go do that. And usually those ones that have all the information, you usually can find it somewhere after they've presented, whether YouTube or whatever it may be. So I think that's really important. Knowing your assets, you really need to think about what you're going to work on. And I'll tell you, if you're a good follow-up person, that's an asset. If you're not, that's not such a great asset. We should be following up. I'm bad. Like within 48 hours. You got to do it while it's hot. The next one that I want to spend a little bit of time on is hosting your own small Zoom meeting. I love this. Now, I created a whole round table out of COVID for women in leadership. It's been great. I started out in February. Now, I'm not suggesting you have to create something that big, but I want you to think about your contacts. Some people you know well who know how great you are, and some who don't. And I want you to put together 3 to 5 people who are not competitors to discuss a real issue. Or if it has to be to network, okay. But you're better off getting people involved in something of meat. Okay, so you can do that. And I encourage you to think, now that we're more global and we can meet people from everywhere, corporate offices, whatever, you might think of the people you invite and invite a presenter who doesn't even live here, who's really good at what they do. And when you tell them who's attending, I had a very small group for one of the round, it was the last one. And I had Nika from Cox, the VP of Public Affairs, speaking. She said, "Oh no, Susan, I love small groups." I was being authentic and telling her it's going to be a small group. She said, "That's the kind I like the best." So don't be shy to put together your own thing. Plan what you want to talk about, invite a presenter, make it fun. Okay. Yeah, I tried to do some of that today and some of it hasn't worked, but make it fun. You can do a scavenger hunt. Surprise people and say, okay, you've got 5 minutes to go around the house and find these items. They do it with the kids on COVID, so why can't we do it? You could ask everybody to draw a picture of something. Nothing is funnier for an icebreaker than to tell people to draw a picture and show it to everybody. Here's a good one. Think of that boss of yours when they've really irritated you, made you so mad, pissed you off. Think of your body language and ask everybody in the group to think of a time where their boss just really made them mad and show it. And that is something different. Yeah, it's a little negative, but oh well, it's real. So try to make everything fun as you can. If you were supposed to go to a conference last year, didn't have the conference nationally or in Virginia, when that happens again, if it does, and we pray it doesn't, but if it doesn't happen, or it's limited people that can attend the conference, then reach out to them. And there's an example of how to say that, how to do that. All right, next slide. All right, be active in social groups. And I know some of you are, but I get the sense when I look at profiles that they're just dabbling in LinkedIn or in Facebook. It's fine to be on Facebook for your buds and your family, but you need to think about business too, because that is a real good resource. So you can check out the members very easily. Go to the page, check out a few. Don't just join everything if you haven't joined groups. But you can go and Facebook or LinkedIn, it shows you faces of some of the members. You just click on them. It'll show you a list of everybody who's a member. It shows you, it practically feeds it to you how to connect with them. So there's a lot of value in that, but you can't be there if you're not going to participate. It's just a no-no. And likes are nice, but what's even better? Comments. Keep the conversation going. You're a networker. You're not going to make a sale in one shot. And during COVID, I start connecting, and don't get me wrong, I love my chamber membership and my chamber buds, and I do make good connections with chamber. I'm not saying stop any of that, but I reached out to some different kinds of people, different kinds of groups. They may not even be at a decision maker level, but they're out there networking, they're making contacts, and I've loved it. And one, I'll give you one, if you're not a member of this or haven't heard of it, in LinkedIn, it's called Hampton Roads Networking Group. How particular could that be? I mean, how specific could that be? Great group of people. I found them on LinkedIn. So there's a page that, you can put stuff, post stuff if you're a member, but they meet once a month on Zoom. And we're talking about doing some more social face-to-face. Jessica's a member. And what's really cool, now it's gotten it's grown. But when I joined, they were looking for presenters each month. And Susan jumped right on that, because that's how I could relate to what I do and my services. And they still you will get that opportunity if you join it at some point. So great to look at these groups, and especially the ones that are not only online, but they're doing face-to-face or Zoom. Another one is Connected. Anybody know what it is? Help me. Connected Business. It's in Facebook. Connected. If you type Connected Business, it should pop up. But look at those and think what you're going to do. And I'll tell you, folks, next slide. It's all about preparation, and you might want to write this down somewhere, preparation and content. Doesn't it drive you crazy when somebody connects with you or calls your private phone and says, and especially if it has one of those remote things, automated things, it's annoying. So icebreakers and messages are changing. You can't do them the way you used to do them. You have to lean in on your strengths and come up with an approach that's successful for you. You need to take a second and modify your pitch. You need to modify it and make it authentic. And there are a lot of ways to break that ice. We just did some of them. Knowing what's of interest to people and asking how you can help them will lead to all kinds of good discussions. Knowing if they have kids, don't have kids, if they were remote. You just don't want to use that one all the time about the remote thing. It gets old after a while. So you refine your story. It has to be very real. I'll show you a really authentic one that I did, which I had to be brave to put it out there. You have to be brave. Be resourceful. How can you help somebody? I told you about the article I sent. That sealed the deal. It's just an article, but just that I did it at the right time. So you can even ask people in a group that you're involved in, you know, go around the group and ask everyone to ask one specific question. That's a good one. You want to get conversations going. That will do it. We're at 12:57. Let's do the next slide. Get creative. Hey, I'll tell you a good bag idea. Those of you who have to buy, if you're in sales, you probably have the little giveaways and stuff, right? Why not do a bag that says, I won't lose it between home and office? Just on the side of the bag, I won't lose it between home and office, something like that. So I will make sure you get these slides, but this was just some messaging that you could look at. Bill, I was wanting to ask you to share with you some information. Do you know anybody you think I could connect with? I saw a post where some company, ABC company, was awarded, okay, a new job. What a great win. That will start a conversation if they're in like a commercial real estate industry. I wonder how the casinos approved for development in Portsmouth and Norfolk will impact Colonial Downs. Those kind of questions. Don't forget to put your information in the chat if you want to connect with other people. And let's do one more slide. Tell a story. Some of you know I handled Dunkin' Donuts for Virginia and North Carolina for marketing and PR for quite a while. Tell a story. Here's a list of things to think about. Go look at blogs in the industry that you're targeting. There are blog sites in almost every industry, that last bullet right here. All right, next slide. Content is king, queen, and more. Don't ever forget it. I gave you a planning guide you could use for what you're going to do for networking. That might help you. And use several slides. I thank you for your time. Reach out to me. We'll make sure you get the slides and have a great day. Figure out, plan your networking. Don't just go.
Susan, thank you so much. You are phenomenal as always. So thank you. And so now if you want to use some of that in-person networking, the Chamber has our B2B this afternoon from 5 to 7 at the Chesapeake Conference Center. So go on over and try out some of these new skills that Susan taught us all. Thank you, Susan. Again, make sure that everybody has her contact information, and Liana will post the slides when we post the article. Our next
Great.
Chamber education is coming up on Tuesday, June 15th. It will also be virtual. It is on social media marketing myths and realities with Colden Martin. He is with the SIR group. So that should be another exciting session. And I would be not doing my job if I didn't put the plug out there that, again, we need sponsors to continue this Chamber education. We've managed through May with no sponsors, and to cover our costs, we need to get some sponsors so that we can continue to provide it for free. So if you or your company, or you know of a company that might be interested in sponsorship, you've all got Liana's email address, and just shoot her a note. Thank you all for being part of this. We look forward to seeing you next session on June 15th, and hopefully we'll see a lot of you tonight at the B2B. Thank you.